With Steve Collins. We call him Grumpy. We call this bit of the show Grumpy's Getaway, and it is aptly named because you have just got away recently.
And come back, which is more amazing because I wanted to stay.
Where'd you go, mate?
Went up to Darwin, went up there last Sunday, and it was a lovely little flight because it's Qantas think they run Boeing 717s, and it went via Alice Springs because they have to refuel because they're not the world's largest aircraft, but they're very comfortable.
Yeah.
And when we got to Alice, I have a relative there who was happy to come out to the airport and see me. So it was quite, say hello there.
Yeah.
So it was quite delightful. Got to Darwin about 7:30 that night, and I'd hired a car and went to my hotel and all that, which took my TomTom with me, but I didn't really need it because it's well signposted the way into the city and all that. It's a lovely little city, totally opposite to what I thought it would be. Now, I knew that it would have modern buildings there because it's actually destroyed 4 times now. Once, 3 times by cyclones, and once by World War II, of course. So it has been rebuilt quite a few times. So I knew that. I thought it would be sort of like a bit of a Wild West sort of a place, a bit redneck and all that. But it's a very, very sophisticated city. And for those that haven't been to Darwin, picture Singapore, really, because there's a lot of high-rise in Darwin. The streets are very wide, they're very, very clean, and there's gorgeous tropical plants all along the city streets, much like you find in Singapore. And there's just these rows and rows of frangipanis, and you get the beautiful perfume of the frangipani flower when you walk down the street. It's just so nice.
So had you been to Darwin prior?
I hadn't been to Darwin before, which is...
There'd be a lot of Australians, haven't I? As I was just saying before, Mum was visiting us here in Perth, and she said, one of the things, she's mid-80s now, she said one of the things I'd like to do in the next couple of years, while I'm still fit enough to do it, is catch the GAN in Adelaide and go and have a look at Darwin. I'd really like to see Darwin.
Well, yes, I went out. The terminus for the GAN is a fair way out of town because I'm a bit of a train nut, and I thought, I'll go out there and have a look at the terminus. And it's one of these, the building itself is quite modern, but it's one of these old things that doesn't have a platform, so they put the steps down so you can actually step onto the ground.
Oh, yeah, that's cute.
It is, but it's a fair way out of town, and the GAN, of course, is the only passenger train it gets. It gets a few goods trains in there. But, it's they have shuttle buses which pick you up from the GAN and take you into wherever you're staying in town. The Darwin itself the city centre runs east-west. They've got 4 main streets that run east-west. You've got Kavanagh Street, you've got Smith Street, you've got Mitchell Street, and then you've got the Esplanade. And the Esplanade is on one side of it, there's buildings, and on the other side of it, there's this wonderful park, because the city centre is quite high. And you've got to go down, there's a bit of a cliff to negotiate to get down to the waterfront, roads and all that. But what they have is when you go to the main waterfront, which is on the eastern side of the city, you go there and there's a series of elevators which take you down, and walkways and all that. It's very, very well done. So you don't have to climb up and down stairs.
So is this development recent, do you reckon?
The waterfront development is very recent. In fact, it's some parts of it are finished, but it's still mainly under construction.
Yeah.
And it's high rise. Now, there's apartment living there, and there's also hotels and all that. But what they also have there, which is tremendous, is they have like a little beach which is netted, because they don't have a shark problem up there. They have a crocodile problem and a box jellyfish problem, which you would know coming from Queensland. And so that part of it's netted, and it's quite a nice little beach area. But what they have got there right next to it is they have a wave pool. And this thing, I was standing there and I was talking to the lifeguard, and there's 10 different sequences of the waves that come on down. And so you go there and you get your boogie board, or the boogie boards are there for you. And you go there and it's like being at a surf beach. Some of these waves you can surf, and they're various heights and levels and all that. And
they use surfboards or just the bodyboards?
They were using, there were some guys, I saw some school kids take surfboards in there, but most people had bodyboards. But you don't have to, it depends where you are. If you're on the facing the waves, if you're on the right side, the waves are more ferocious than on the left side. So if you want a milder experience, you go over there.
That's
but
nice.
really,
just go to the beach
good.
and choose your wave height.
Choose your wave height. It's fantastic.
Sensation.